Hi, I am Tara Bentley, and I'm the Executive Director for the Indiana Association of Home Educators, otherwise known as the IAHE.
Hi, I'm Cindy Briggs. I'm a homeschool mom and a volunteer with IAHE.
We're here bringing you this podcast to share with you a lot of great information about homeschooling here in Indiana. This will be a place to learn about homeschooling, find the support you need, all in the Hoosier State.
Each week, we're going to focus on a different topic in the homeschool world. We'll bring you special guests and information that's going to help you on your homeschool journey. So let's get started.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of Homeschool Indiana Podcast. We're so excited to be back with everyone.
We love this podcast. We're having so much fun.
We're having fun, and we hope everyone's having fun joining us. And if you're listening to us, hopefully you've gotten caught up. We're being consistent so far. We've made it. We were doing it every week. Our lives are so crazy. We weren't sure we were going to be able to do it, but we've done it so far.
We have, and we're still we're still recording on Fridays right now, and we're still getting ready for conference, which is exciting. We were just talking about that. That's in just a few weeks.
Oh, it is far closer than with my to-do list. I need another couple months, but on the other hand, I can't wait to be together with everyone. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I am too. And if you're listening to this, there is still time to register, right?
Yes.
I mean, so because we're still, this is in March. So
we still have seats available if you're listening to us now. So conference is March 22nd. It is coming up really soon, and we can't wait to see you there. If you're listening after this, then just
after
make sure you're on our email list so you know what's coming up next year.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just excited for that, and just for spring to come, excited for that. And we're just chatting about all of the good stuff. And yeah, I just took a moment because my homeschool child just had to peek in, because remember, we're all homeschoolers.
That's right.
I'm still living life.
And family comes first.
That's right. And so
the
we joked about on our podcast that it's just real life. And if things come up, and as we start doing this in like summer, where we're going to hear, lawnmowers and everything. But yeah, sometimes my son, he knows we record, but I think he hears Tara and I talking for a while before and thinks we're done recording. So
that's okay. That's okay. And we're going to have him on the show. We've already talked about that too.
We are. Yeah. We're going to have him coming down here soon. And there's things he loves to do, because again, one of the things I love about homeschooling is just chasing those dreams and like things that they love to do. And, Tara knows we've been chasing, my son's wants to act, and we've been kind of chasing a dream to do that, and making weekly trips 3 hours each way. And but it's fun. And so we're going to have him on talking about just one of his specialties that he loves.
And not only are we going to have Jackson on the show, we want to feature our listeners. We want to feature Indiana homeschool parents. And so you can email us with thoughts, questions, topics, things that you would like to hear, or you can record a voice message to us on our website. So I'm really excited about that. So you got it set up for us. So
it is so cool. Yeah, the speak pipe. So click record. You can hear a message from us or from me just talking about what we're doing, but you can just hit a record button and it comes right to us. And we want to hear from people.
We want to know, what are your questions or tips? So much wealth of information out there in our parents. And so we're very blessed. We have a massive Facebook discussion group where people ask questions. And wow, we just have some really wise parents out there who can share their information with others. So it doesn't have to be about us. It's not all about us.
No. Record anything, any information that you have, questions you might have. And it kind of leads into, and we may get a lot of comments this week, because it leads into who I got to interview this week for the podcast. I got to interview, again, another one of our leads. We have, honestly, Tara, you have built such a team, like such a volunteer team with this organization. And another one of our leaders, Staci Morgan, who leads our special learners group, right? Like,
yes. Yeah. She's amazing. She's very gifted. She has a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom to share. And we know, and I was sharing this with you, we know that the number of families in the homeschool world with special learners has grown significantly. It was growing at such a fast pace before the pandemic.
hey,
So we quickly pulled some stats.
well,
So
my stats, I think, were before pandemic, where it
yes,
said
go ahead.
38% of the 2.5 million students were in homeschool were with special needs. So 38%
Right.
of 2.5 million. But then you found a more recent stat. What was
Yes.
your
So this actually came from a great resource, SPED Homeschool. So this is a national organization that has a lot of great information on their website. And Staci's also involved with them. But pre-pandemic, 3.9 million children were homeschooled with diverse learning needs, but they estimate that that number has grown by an additional 3.2 million
wow?
since 2020. And
So
so it's very important. It's a very successful growing part of the homeschool movement, but parents have realized that they can do this, right?
yes.
We say that all the time, parents, you can do this, but even parents of special learners can
Right.
do this. And
Well, and
so,
I learned so much from Staci because I think so often parents are worried about, well, if I might lose services needed for my child or something like that. But as Staci will explain, that's not true. Like you don't have to lose services by homeschooling your special learner. And she explains all of that in this episode.
well, I can't wait to hear about your conversation with her. And if you are the parents of a special learner and you want to reach out, you can reach out to us at the podcast. You can reach out to Staci. And again, Sped Homeschool is a great resource, and we will drop all of that information in the show notes if you're
Absolutely.
listening on your favorite podcast app.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump in right now with Staci and let's hear all she has to say. Hi, everyone. Okay, so we are here today. I'm here today with Staci Morgan, and I'm super excited. As you heard Tara and I talking about, Staci has been around in IAHE for a bit, and I was so blessed to get to meet her last year. And we got to spend some time at a conference together, and so this is just going to be fun that we get to talk now, like, about official business stuff. This is really great. So, Staci, you are our lead with IAHE with special needs, with special learning, that type of thing. But tell us kind of like, how did you get started in this homeschool world? Like, what's your story there?
Sure. So I actually have 4 children, and my oldest is now 20. When he started school, originally I didn't think that I was going to be able to do homeschooling because I had some chronic health issues myself, and I thought I don't have the energy to like do more than get dressed in a day. So how in the world could I homeschool? So I put him in the public school system. We started kindergarten there, but he's a twice exceptional kid, so it wasn't long into the school year that I found out it wasn't really going to be a good fit there because they weren't challenging him. He was a kid, he read like at 3.5, 4 years of age. They were wanting him to do ABCs like every single day over and over on the same piece of paper. And so we started getting these letters that said, your child's a great student. He excels very, very well at the work, but he's getting in trouble and distracting the other kids. And I made the mistake of using the word bored to a teacher in public school. And so I learned
they don't want to hear
like, they didn't take kindly to it, and I didn't mean anything bad, but I was just like, I really think it just sounds like he's getting bored.
Yeah.
And so we stuck it out through his kindergarten year, which if I had to do it again, I would have gone ahead and pulled him earlier. I just kind of had this, I got to complete what I started mindset. And so we did. We completed that year, and from first grade on, we just kept homeschooling. And every year I was like that reluctant homeschooler going, I don't know, maybe we'll do it another year. I don't know, maybe I can do it one more. And it eventually just rolled into, this is what our life is, and it's what's best for our children. So following on to him was my daughter, who has dyslexia and ADD. And she ended up being the opposite of him, where she didn't learn to read for a very long time. And in the public school system, she would have been lost too. So here I only had 2 students that I thought they would have been lost in the system. What's going to be best for them? So now up to 4 kids total, all of them with their own special needs. And we found that this is what works for us. Of course, I hit the high school years and again had that like, oh my goodness, am I going to be able to actually homeschool through high school? Can I give my son what he needs? Can I keep him challenged? All those questions that we have as moms, because, you know, we're concerned. We don't want to leave holes. We don't want to give a deficit. We want to make sure our kids have the absolute best start in life that they can have.
Right.
And it's, you know, all those lies we start believing that, oh my goodness, I might not be able to be enough. I can't do everything the school system can. But, you know, thankfully I was surrounded by a community within the IAHE that they helped me be reminded, yes, you can do this, and no one cares more about your children than you.
Oh, absolutely. So how many have graduated now? How many?
So I've had just the one graduate.
Your son graduated. Okay.
Yeah. And he's at college, doing fantastic. So it took us a little while. There was transition, but I think there is with most kids their freshman year. And then my second daughter, she's like right on that precipice. She's like, we're looking at a lot of dual enrollment next year for her senior year, because she's in this flux state of she could have graduated, but because of nursing school not letting her start clinicals till she was 18, we just kind of slowed the roll and said, let's get more grounded, get some foundation. Sure. But she's flying, and then I have twins that are almost 13.
And you're still in it too. I love that you said you're, you know, kind of reluctant, because I know I've talked about that too, in that every year I just go, is this the best? Is this what I want to do? And sometimes I have to talk to other people, even within that IAHE, and just go, you know, again, speak those words into me. Because I think so often people think of, you know, homeschool families as you're just like, oh, you know, absolutely. And I'm in 100%. Some are, some aren't. I mean, it's different. Like every child's different. All the families are different in it also. So if you're feeling like, if you're out there listening and you're feeling that like, oh, I'm unsure sometimes, so are we.
Yeah. Well, and I remember when I was sitting at one of the first local homeschool co-op graduations, had mom after mom originally that was coming up talking about their graduate. They were like, oh, you know, it's been such a lovely journey and I can't believe it. And the time's been so great. And I was sitting there going, man, I'm doing something wrong, because part that comes with that 2E kid came some opposition, right? Like, yes, I mean, he's willing to challenge anybody and everything, which is a great quality, because we need those people that are willing to do that.
Absolutely.
Holy cow, it didn't serve me, but he wasn't given to me to serve me, right? Like, I mean, I'm here to raise him up. And so I just remember sitting there, and this other mom comes on, and all of a sudden she's sitting there and she's like, you know, she said, it's been a battle from day one. She said, we did this and it was hard, but I'm so thankful we did this journey, and I know it's right. And looking back, like,
and you're like, yes.
Yeah, I know. So it's like, I finally relate, like, okay, I'm not in the wrong place here. And so I guess I would also say to the listeners is, know that it's not always going to look like a bed of roses. And kind of like we talk social media, everybody, you know, presents this perfect little corner picture, but that's not what real life ins and outs, days to days, and especially with special learners.
Right. Which leads us into, because so often, and Staci and I are both on a lot of different sites on social media where we see the questions come in from people about homeschooling, and they'll say, you know, I have a special learner, or I have this, or I have that. I don't think we can homeschool. And there's just all those different questions. So Staci heads up that with our organization as to, yes, you can homeschool your special learner. And can you just tell everybody just kind of what that looks like, kind of from the start, if you know you have a special learner, and whether they're in school now or not in school? Can you kind of walk people through that?
Yeah, so let me just start kind of with the law itself. So in Indiana, we are blessed with so many freedoms in homeschooling, right? I mean, we
Yes.
really aren't bound by testing. We're not bound by, a set curriculum, anything like that. There's so much beauty in the freedom in Indiana homeschooling. So the same is exactly true for homeschooling our special needs kids. They have no extra requirements. There's no testing that's required. There's no reporting to anybody. We still keep track of our education days. We do encourage additional documentation because we are in the face of multiple people, like, occupational therapy, doctors, different people intersect our lives that don't necessarily a neurotypical student's lives, and just puts us at the possibility of someone questioning what we're doing. So we just want to make sure we're covered, but the requirements are no different. And so if your child is already in public school and they do have an IEP and you're wanting to pull them to homeschooling, then you're going to send that same template type letter that is on the IAHE website to get you started. You want to make sure you send it in a form that there's a documentation trail, whether it's their email or a certified letter. And then after that, you will have to process with the school the IEP to either close out the IEP and reject the FAPE, or you would actually switch it to an ISP and you could still receive services for your child, or you could keep it at a consultative only basis. But all that's decisions for a person, the parents, to weigh out with each other, hopefully a couple saying, what really is best? Where do we want involvement? And then that's what my team is here for. We're also here to be able to help answer questions of what would it look like? Where could I find services still to help my children outside of the school system? Right. And we don't recommend any one particular place, but we can help connect you to people that have had services in the area that you're in, because it would be almost impossible to keep a list current of the entire state. But that's part of what we do. So we hope that people will connect with us on the IAHE Facebook page for special learners. And then we have a website like within the IAHE for special learners, so that there's some information that they can garner there. There's an email address for special learners that they can send in requests, or they can call the phone line, and we can set up a time to have a consultative call.
Right, to discuss
it. And it's really never I'm going to tell you exactly what to do, because I can't tell you that, right? Like no more than Dr. Cindy, I could tell you. I can't tell you exactly what works for your family. But we talk about pros and cons. We talk about what would it look like? What has it looked like for me and been successful for myself or some other people I've spoken to? And then we just go from there. But really being that cheerleading support
to help
the family
to know that they can do it, because so often some of the public schools will come and say, you can't, or you're going to lose all your services, and those aren't true.
Right. And in fact, a little just snippet here real quick, but is that there is a difference in educational services and medical services that are obtained. So when our special learners are getting the services through a school system, it's strictly from an educational basis. So it's what's going to help them succeed in a school-driven mindset, versus if we go through, say, a pediatrician to get a referral for an occupational therapist, then they're going to broaden that scope to, we're going to give services for an entire life skill set. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it's, you're getting kind of a broader sense than just how to sit in a classroom and succeed, or how to get through these courses. So now what if there's people out there and they think, so they haven't been in a school system and they, have little ones, and they think that they have special learning needs, but they haven't been tested, anything like that. What does that path look like?
So really that path, it varies on, again, what the family desires. So if it's needs that they feel like is slowing down their child's learning. So for example, my daughter with the dyslexia, she, like at age 5, we would do ABCs every single day like the school system wanted to do with Jeremy,
Right.
but instead with my daughter, it wouldn't stick. And like literally anything she learned Monday all the way over to Friday, we'd spend the weekend away from school and it was everything was gone. And so I knew something was going on. And so for us, it was important to get a diagnosis. So I spoke with her pediatrician and I said, you know, I really think this is going on. Now, sometimes, especially with dyslexia, they don't want to diagnose until third grade. It's just kind of a rule of thumb. But we stepped out into a neuropsychologist arena, got some testing done early, and then got that diagnosis. And it was like by doing it early. Sorry about my tongue tie here, but by doing it a little bit earlier, it also preserved some of her self-esteem. Yes. Because the longer you go without diagnosing or knowing what the delay is, then the more in depth that starts harkening on their thoughts about themselves.
It can be lifelong. My husband has dyslexia and he didn't find out till he was in 5th grade, and still now in his 50s. I mean, he doesn't love to read. He does it because we show our children that we read. But yeah, it was that thing early on that it just kind of broke his confidence.
Right. And I know that there are several people, and I've heard it over and over and over again, that like, you know, they don't want the quote label, right? People get so afraid of the label, and I see a lot in the homeschool community seem to want to stay away from a label. But I think that we need to rethink that and recognize that the label, or AKA the diagnosis, can actually be the key that unlocks our kids' potential, and it preserves some of that self-esteem. Because we're not saying, well, a child with ADHD is wrong or there's something to fix about them. We're just saying you're wired a little different than what 40% of the population is. So we're going to learn better in an active mode. You're going to learn better by, you know, running and collecting the alphabet letters off of the wall when I tell you to go get me a K, because you need to burn energy. And then burning energy, while you get that K off the wall, suddenly you've got more sticking points in your brain. Whereas if I try to teach that same kid with the neurodivergence of ADD or ADHD, they're not gonna, you know, have that sticking point because they're too busy thinking, I've got to sit still. I've got to sit still.
Right. And which is such the beauty of homeschooling all of our children, is giving them that opportunity, whether you have somebody that wants to sit with their book and, you know, write them out, or running around to get them. And especially, I think so often, you know, the kids in public school seem to get that label quicker even. And sometimes it's just kids kind of growing up and growing out of that fidgety.
Right. Absolutely. So I'm one of those that I think that the labels or the diagnosis is very important, but I'm not quick to say, you know, like slap it on and just use it as an excuse, and not necessarily to just jump into all that the medical world says. I mean, there's lots of varieties, and especially like you said, when we're homeschooling these children that need more activity, then they can get it and burn it. And maybe by the time they're 10, they don't need to run and burn so much, you know, and so there's not a need for a medication or something to chill them out.
It's just a tool. And I mean, again, it's, and if we look at all the tools we have and all of the connections we have, I'm sure there's listeners out there that who had no idea we have an entire team at IAHE that helps with this. So, you know, that we are trying to figure out all the different tools to make you successful.
Right. Absolutely.
Which I just love. And so we've talked about like the people that have gone through public school, the people. And you mentioned an ISP versus an IEP, and just somebody who doesn't know, what is an ISP? What does that mean?
An ISP is an individual service plan. So instead of the individual education plan for a student in public school, then the ISP is something that they give to students who are not in public school.
Okay.
And you can still receive services under that.
And, you know, and you see the kids that can do anything with this. I mean, like you said, going to college or going into other career fields, or, you know, I mean, we aren't just pigeonholing them into one thing, which is so cool. I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And that was the beauty of homeschooling through high school for my son, because he does have ADHD, so he's very hyper focused, and we were able to create a world of school around mechanical engineering, thinking that that's where he was headed in college. And so he did an apprenticeship with a mechanic who helped him rebuild his first car's engine, and that was able to be a class. And now he has this lifetime skill and knowledge on cars that even if he doesn't become a mechanical engineer, he's equipped far better for his, future life with vehicles and repairs to help him minimize cost to him and his family. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
so
that is so cool.
It was just a beautiful route we could go with him. And then my daughter, she's looking at the nursing field. And so again, we're building in classes, medical terminology she wouldn't get normally in high school. Right. I'm going to do a drug calculations class because my background's nursing also. So, there's things that I can build into her world of high school with homeschooling that she wouldn't get if she was in a public school.
Yes.
So that's what I really enjoy. And we get to build on the strengths they have, and we don't ignore the weaknesses, or I don't. We try to build those up, but I don't expect them to be all at the same level as every other class that they have.
Right. So, I read a great post, I think it was the day before yesterday, with homeschooling parents that said that same thing of, we can say, okay, as they get into that older field, it's okay. You don't have to be a rocket scientist math person. If you have your basic math skills, you know how to figure out problems, but you are an excellent writer, then we're going to focus that area and really push for you to get to excel in that.
Right.
Instead of worrying about, I need to get all A's in all of these classes, I get to kind of really push where I'm strong.
Right. Well, and my almost 13-year-olds, they absolutely love writing. Now, writing is not my cup of tea, other than just journaling for myself and like journaling prayers. I enjoy that. It's very therapeutic for me. But I mean, right now they're in the other room, sitting at their computers, writing their own books.
Oh,
I didn't sign that as school, and I'm not going to tell them it counts as homeschool, even, to be honest, because they probably wouldn't want to do it if I did.
Does, yeah. Then you're like, oh,
but it is school.
Yes,
because absolutely. They're getting more and more fluent at putting together the sentences, building a paragraph, building chapters, building a whole book. Like, I mean, that's amazing. So, but that's where their gifting is, along with piano and voice.
Even though in a school system they would be labeled as some sort of as special learners or special needs, or which is just that label again. So one of the other things we were talking about is that you and I are both speaking at conference more than once. We were laughing about the fact that it's like, oh yeah, we have a few of those. So what are your sessions that you're going to do? And again, we've been reminding listeners that we are recording for our March 2024 conference. You might be listening after. You can check with our website as far as upcoming conferences, but this is particularly March of 2024. So what are your sessions?
So my first one, and I don't know what order they come actually on the schedule, but I'm looking at the focused look of homeschooling a child with ADD and ADHD. So again, kind of the irony in the title is it's a focused look, because usually we think with those kids, we can't get them to focus, but yet the gift of ADD and ADHD is their hyper focus ability. I'm making up a word there, but that they can deep dive into things. And so how do we tap into the gift that is and help draw them into the space that they need to learn some of these other things, basic skills, without like breaking them down and destroying their beautiful spirit. So, that younger child who is all into Minecraft or Legos or dinosaurs, like, we wrap around their learning of that interest and that thing they like to deep dive, and then it pulls in some of that. So that's just like a quick little nugget, little tip of it.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. The second is excelling with executive functions, life skills today for a child's tomorrow, because we know nobody's executive function, frontal lobe development doesn't happen till 25. But again, in our neurodiverse populations, it really tends to be underdeveloped. It's just a slower development process. And so we want to discuss and talk about like time management, helping them learn to organize and prioritize properly. I'm not going to promise that anybody's going to get a child that can have a perfectly clean room again after that, because if I could do that, I probably wouldn't still be working for the IAHE.
That's right. We'd sell that.
Making a lot of money somewhere else. But so I can't make those promises. But really, the point is that we're coming to the point where our children are at, and remembering to walk the journey step by step, model, even as hard as it is. Like, I have some ADHD myself, and so that time management thing can be a real challenge and struggle. So I have to really remind myself. I have so many timers set on my phone. My husband laughs at me because of all the alarms I have set, but some of them are just simply to remind me, like, hey, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. So
make sure you know where you are. Yeah, because I know what I mean.
Yeah. So things like that, and just building in some skill sets there and helping your child advance. And then transitioning your special learner to life beyond high school. There will be mostly a conversation and talk about how do we help our child that has special needs, that does want to attend college, to be able to go through the process of getting accommodations and making sure they have the supports that they need there. And also talk about those apprenticeships and moving into the trade schools, as those are a possibility for many of our learners. And then a little bit into what about that child that isn't going to even be able to leave the house. And,
sure.
And I can't give a whole lot there, just because there's not, I mean, that's a whole entire conversation for 5-hour long webinars.
Right, that's a whole conference almost. Like that.
Right, it is. But just to touch in the differences that our children could walk in their paths, and how to help them move to that next stage. And that as moms, but especially homeschooling moms, like, our journey never ends with our children, right? Like, we want to develop into being the most influential influencer in their life. Yes. To, even though through those years that a lot of kids try to push their kids back. But in homeschooling, again, one of the beauties is building relationship with our children. So by the time we get to this stage, they know that we have their best interest at heart. Mm-hmm. And that what we're speaking into their life is because we love them and we want the best for them.
So great. Yeah. Was and then one more, right?
Oh, yeah, one more, and that's Homeschooling the Gifted Child. Who is teaching who? And that one is really, it's based on my journey with my oldest, that many times I really did feel like I had no clue what was to be taught to him next, and he seemed to pick up stuff faster than me. Especially with our oldest, it seems like, we're learning and drinking from the fire hose with them as fast as they can. Yeah. And the blessing of a young brain is they seem to absorb a lot faster than what at least my brain, will. But it really did become a journey of, sometimes he was teaching me the information, and that still counted, because when we get to a point we can teach somebody else information, then mastered, that information. So I had to break away from that, educational construct of, I'm the teacher, you're the student. Yes. Now you have to listen to me, and I have to teach, and there was so much freedom when I finally could break free from that construct.
Which is hard for people. I laugh because my son, God has such a sense of humor, I think, because like there are so many things. I mean, my husband is very science. I mean, he has, he's a doctorate degree in science. I have a doctorate in business and that kind of thing. Our son is all arts. He is music, he is theater, and it cracks us up because we are not that. And we're just like, but we pull that into homeschooling and we learn stuff. I've been learning things about kind of the acting world that I would have never known, but I just laugh because I'm like, out of all the skills that my husband and I could bring, none of them, they are not the top skills that we need right now. Right. So that's okay too. And like you said, like when he's teaching me, stuff, because we've put him in special classes for theater and stuff, it's great because I'm learning and he's getting to teach it.
Yeah,
That's so cool. I wish, see, like I hear all your sessions and I say this with everybody that I talk to. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the recordings because all of those sound so wonderful.
Yeah.
They
Well,
sound
thank you.
great.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you bring so much experience. So because now your son is probably what? So how many years have you done this? Like 13?
Yeah.
Probably
Yep.
like 13
13.
years. I know, I say that out loud because I tell everybody I still feel like, even in my 50s, I feel like the baby like homeschooler
Yeah.
because we've only been doing this like almost 4. And
Yeah.
when I talk to all of you who've been doing this for years, it's like, you all are the pioneers before us. I love it. Well,
Definitely not
Staci,
over here.
one of the things I love to do with everybody that I talk to is just give you the opportunity that because we get so many listeners with so many different things, but if you could just give your best piece of advice, whether it's special needs or not, whatever, in homeschooling, what would that be?
Well, funny you should ask that today because I just was being reminded through a webinar I was listening to about the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right?
Mm,
So shoulda, coulda, wouldas. My best advice is drop them, let them fall hard to the floor, and don't pick them back up again because the things that we tell ourselves our child or we should be at a certain point just drives anxiety, it drives fear, it drives tension, all the things that we don't want to bring into our homeschool that
yes.
I could have. Well, okay, so you missed an opportunity, but guess what? There's going to be so many more opportunities.
Right.
And we get to cherry pick. Like in homeschooling, again, the beauty of it, we get to cherry pick the opportunities, the educational experiments and experiences, both for our children. And then shoulda, coulda, woulda, I would have done this. Well, we just want to move forward in knowing that we're doing the best we can with what we have, with what we know when we're in it, and that we're just following after God in what He tells us to do for the children He gave us. Because
Oh,
He
I
assigned,
love
like,
that.
ultimately, it's He assigned us our kids for a reason, but He assigned our children to, like, it's a two-way street, right?
Yes.
We both have things that we're going to learn from each other. And God didn't make a mistake in assigning them to us or us to them, nor was that the case with their siblings either.
Right.
Because I know at one point with one of my children who has less special needs than the others, I frequently started feeling bad, like she's missing out on all these things. And God said, this
No.
is growing her and maturing her into the person she needs to be for who I created her to be.
Oh, I love
So,
that. So
yeah,
drop those shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And in a world where comparison seems to be the thing and the driving force in so much, especially, and I think it's everybody. I don't want to discount dads, but in mom world, comparison just feels heavy sometimes. And that picture of perfection and other people are doing it better or right. Yeah. And we got to let those go.
yeah, yeah,
That is
definitely.
amazing advice. Such good. And I think we could listen to that every day.
Yeah,
And some days you do it better. I think some days I'm like, I got this. It's good. And other days I'm like, what am I doing? This is
right.
crazy. And, and to know again, there's people out here that are supporting you in your efforts is huge. So I love that. Well, Staci, it has been just such a pleasure to talk to you. And again, to the listeners, this is Staci Morgan, who deals with our special learners at IAHE. And there's a website, and we put all of this in show notes. So you can always find these links that we talk about anytime in our episodes. But I want to thank you again for taking time this morning to talk to me and give everybody such wonderful insights into this.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. And we will be back with the Homeschool Indiana podcast. And again, just check show notes and we will see you next week. Thanks so much.